Today, we'll be talking about the 4 drivers who will be competing for a NASCAR Cup Series Championship, and I will tell you who I think will be the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series Champion at Phoenix. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. The first driver we talk about is a driver of the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports, Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott has scored 5 wins so far in the 2022 season. He scored 12 top 5s, which is tied for second of the 4 drivers on the list. He has 20 top 10s, which again is tied for second, actually tied for the most on this list. Has 857 laps led, which is the most of anybody in the Cup Series field, and has a 12th place average finish, which is the best of anybody in the Cup Series field and the best of the 4 drivers competing for the championship. Chase Elliott's had a career year in the Cup Series. Like I said, this is already tied for the most wins he's ever had in a season. 2020 scored 5 wins, and he could have a chance to get a 6th win this weekend. Now, Chase Elliott, though, despite having a really strong regular season where he won a majority of his races, Chase Elliott in the last 10 races has only scored 2 top 10 finishes. One of those being a win at Talladega, and the other one being a second-place finish at Bristol. Granted, he probably should have won the Charles Roval because he was the fastest car there at the end, but got taken out there. He should have gotten probably a top 5 finish at Homestead, and he probably should have almost won Texas. And honestly, he probably should have had a chance to release a top 3 or top 4 finish at Martinsville. But Chase Elliott, like I said, getting about as many points he did in the regular season, how dominant he was in the regular season, he just did enough at Martinsville to make the championship 4. Now, Chase Elliott, for a lot of people, is probably not the favorite, and it's because of his issues in these class. But you have to remember that we're going to a track where Chase Elliott has been pretty good at. Yes, he did finish 11th, I believe, in the spring, but you have to remember he was running second at a time and was running in the top 5 pretty much the whole entire beginning of the race, but had a bad pit stop and got dropped back there and ended up spinning out. I think Chase Elliott has a very strong chance to make it, and not only make it, but have a good chance at winning the race at Phoenix, and I think he could be the champion. And I think he'd be the second youngest driver, I think, in the history of NASCAR, the youngest driver to have 2 championships in Cup history. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but Chase Elliott is the first driver who will be competing for a championship. The second driver who will be competing for the championship is the driver of the 1 car for Trackhouse Racing, Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain has had a very strong year so far in 2022. He has scored 2 wins so far in 2022, those coming at Circuit Americas and then later this year at Talladega. He has scored 14 top 5s, which is the most of anybody on this list and the most of everybody in the Cup Series field. He has 20 top 10s, which is tied for the most this season, has 692 laps left, has a 13.5 average finish, which is the second best of the drivers on this list. Ross Chastain has been absolutely legendary to watch so far this year. Just 2 years ago, Ross Chastain was competing for Spire Motorsports and driving a 15 car for Premium and a 77 for Spire Motorsports. Now, 2 years later, he is competing for a championship. The rags to riches story Ross Chastain has had this year going to Trackhouse Racing, because let's be honest, I think a lot of people going this year thought he may potentially make the playoffs. I didn't think he was going to make the playoffs this year originally. The fact that he did not only make the playoffs this year, but has a really strong chance to win the Cup Series championship in 2022 is absolutely amazing. And I think he's going to be the favorite for a lot of people going in this weekend. Not only because of the fact he made that incredible bonsai move at Martinsville, which is probably the greatest move in NASCAR history. That move is going to go down in NASCAR history as one of the greatest moves, or probably the greatest move in NASCAR history. But also, he was really strong at Phoenix in the spring and was competing for the win and ended up finishing second. So take that what you will. Ross Chastain's also had a lot of momentum in the round of 8. He ended up finishing second, and 4th. So he definitely has a lot of momentum going into this race. Is going to be really, really strong in the championship 4. They've had a really strong package on pretty much every type of track. It doesn't matter. Trackhouse had a really good chance, and it'd be really cool for a team like Trackhouse Racing, who's only in their 2nd year in the Cup Series, which I think it's been a long time since the 2nd-year team has gone on to win a Cup Series championship. But I think Ross Chastain has much of a chance as anybody on this list, and I think he's the driver who can do whatever he takes, and I think he's going to have a lot of people rooting for him this weekend at Phoenix. The third driver who will be competing for a championship is a driver of the 20 for Joe Gibbs Racing, Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell has scored 3 wins so far in the 2022 season. Those wins coming at Loudon, winning at the Charles Roval to clutch his way into the round of 8, and end up winning at Martinsville to clutch his way into the championship 4. He has scored 12 top 5s, 19 top 10s, which is the 3rd most on this list. Has 573 laps left, has a 13.9 average finish, which is the worst of the 4 drivers, but not by much. Christopher Bell has really had an incredible comeback from the beginning of this year. He struggled at the beginning of the year. At one point at the beginning of the season, Christopher Bell was sitting outside the top 30 points 5 races into the season. But he has been the most consistent driver at Joe Gibbs Racing and the most consistent driver at Toyota. In my opinion, the best driver at Toyota throughout this season. Not only that, he has been probably the most clutch driver throughout these playoffs and probably arguably the best driver in these playoffs so far. He's gotten 2 really important clutch victories, those, like I said, coming at the Charlotte Roval, where she was over 30 points back. But Adam Stevens pulled out a really strong and a fantastic strategy and did a really good job right there. And also, then you have to go back to Martin. So, where his car was just super good. He took 4 tires at the end of this race, charged his way from 6th to 1st after leading a majority of laps, leading 195 laps in the race. Pulled out a fantastic strategy and was able to make the championship 4 and probably showed the most emotion I've ever seen Christopher Bell show, even over his first win and his second wins. I think Bell's been super, super quick this year, and we're going to track where he's been solid. He's not been spectacular at Phoenix. I think he ran solid here in the spring, but didn't do fantastic at the spring. But I think Christopher Bell has much of a chance as anybody here to win the Cup Series championship. And I think with how fast the 20 teams been, don't be surprised if Christopher Bell could win the Cup Series championship. Keep an eye on the 20 teams. I think they've got a really strong shot to win the Cup Series championship. And the final driver who will be competing for NASCAR Cup Series championship is a driver of the 22 for Joe Gibbs Racing, Joey Logano. Joey Logano has scored 3 wins so far in the 2022 season, those coming earlier this year in Darlington in May, at the inaugural race at Worldwide Technology Raceway, aka Gateway, and finally getting that last win at Las Vegas to advance into the Championship 4. He has scored 10 top 5s, which is the least of anybody on this list, has 16 top 10s, which again is the least of anybody on this list, has like 597 laps, which is the 3rd most of anybody, and has a 13.8 average finish, which is the 3rd worst average finish, but again, still a very solid average finish. Joey Logano's been having a quiet but a really strong year so far, and I think a lot of people kind of doubted Joey Logano this year, because everyone looks at the other 3 drivers. You got Chase Elliott, who's been the strongest in the regular season. You've got Ross Chastain, who's been really great this year and has had a great second year, and then Christopher Bell, of course, pulling off some great stuff as well. But Joey Logano's been right there behind him, and we're going to a track where Joey Logano has been historically really, really good at. He's won here a couple times, won here in 2020, I think in the spring race, and also I think has won here another time, I think back in 2016 as well. But not only that, we're going to a track very similar to Gateway. And like I said, guess who won that race at Gateway? Joey Logano. I think Joey Logano's going to have as much a chance of winning the championship as anybody here, and I think he's definitely got a really strong chance and possibility to get it done. Also, Team Penske, I think, will bring a lot of pace. Ford has generally also been really quick at the shorter ovals as well, and I think that Joey Logano will absolutely be a threat and will be a killer to have a chance to get it done this weekend and try to win the championship and get his second championship as well, because, of course, his first championship came back in 2018, and now he'll be looking for his second championship in the last 4 years. We'll see what happens, but I think Joey Logano has much of a chance as anybody on this list. Watch out for the 22 teams. I think he's got a really good chance to get it done, and I think he could have a chance to win the championship as well. Watch for Logano because he's one to definitely watch. So now, after talking about the 4 drivers, I'm going to now tell you who I think is going to win the championship. I'll first go by saying who I do not think is going to win the championship. I think the worst finishing driver, shockingly, is going to be Christopher Bell. And I think that's a big surprise because Christopher Bell has probably been the most clutch so far in these playoffs. But I do think that the 20 team is going to be a little bit inconsistent this weekend, and I think they were a little bit behind the ball the last time we were here when Joe Gibbs Racing kind of struggled just a little bit here in the spring. So I don't think Christopher Bell is going to win the title. The second worst finisher, I think, is going to be Joey Logano. I think Logano's going to have the pace and speed to go out there and contend, but I don't think Logano gets it done. I just think the 2 guys ahead of him, I think, are going to be better throughout the race. They were better throughout the race in the spring, and I don't think Logano is going to be right there. So I think the championship is going to come down to Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain, who in my opinion probably been the 2 strongest drivers from start to finish this season. Now y'all would think I probably would go with the best driver to win the championship. So let me say who I think will win. Now normally I'd like to go for the best guy every single year. But I have my pick already set, and this one until 3 or 4 weeks ago was not going to be my pick for the championship. Originally, I was going to pick Chase Elliott to win the Cup championship because he's been the strongest all year and was fast here in the spring at Phoenix. But I'm not picking Chase Elliott. I'm picking Ross Chastain to win the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series championship. There are multiple reasons why I'm picking Ross Chastain. Number 1, the rags to riches story. Raj Hussain is a driver who's had a lot of great things happen to him this year. Yes, he's had a lot of aggression with drivers, but I think Chastain has really put on a really great show this year as a race car driver. It would be phenomenal for him to get it done. The second reason, Raj Hussain has been really strong in these playoffs, especially in the round of 8. Second, and fourth. Has a lot of momentum going into this weekend at Phoenix. And number 3, was the best finisher in the spring earlier this year at Phoenix, and I think that's really going to come into play. So I think that Raj Hussain and Trackhouse Racing are going to do the unthinkable in only their second year. They're going to win their first championship. I've got Raj Hussain not only winning the Owners' Championship and the one team doing it, but I've got them winning the race, because I think you're going to have to win the race because no one has lost. So basically, every year in the Cup Series Championship since this format started, you've had to win the race to win the title. So I am going with Raj Hussain. Like I said, I'm going with him to win the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series Championship. He's my pick to get it done. I've got Raj Hussain winning the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series Championship. So, those are the 4 drivers who will be competing for the NASCAR Cup Series Championship, and I've got my prediction. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, speed notified when the video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as for me on Patreon as well. Links description below over that, and combo your predictions for the 2022 Cup Series Championship. Who's your 2022 Cup Series champion? Let me know in the comments below. We're going to have a NASCAR news video up on the channel later today. Tomorrow, I'm not going to have a race picks video since this technically is the race picks. I'm picking the winner of the race. I am going to have a Kyle Busch video coming out on Thursday. Then on Friday, I'm going to have a NASCAR news video dropping, along with, I'm also going to be dropping that Truck Series reaction to the champion. Then on Saturday, we'll have the Xfinity Series one. And then Sunday, we are going to have the Cup champion reaction as well on the channel. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.